Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been quite a while since I last posted. That was due to my knee operation, which I've now partly recovered from, and I'm now able to go out on the boat spearfishing. So today we're heading off from Plymouth and we're heading out around the coast to the left in hunt for some pollock and maybe some lobsters if we head inshore afterwards. I've got a new camera set up today, so I will be using that at some point. It is my first time using it, so you know, I might not be the best with it at the moment, but it's something to look forward to in the future, especially on the channel as I progress and get better using it. As always, if you enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here, please subscribe. It just notifies you every time I release a new video. Let's get straight into it. This was my first time spearfishing in quite a long time, so I took it easy at the start by doing some warm-up dives in the shallows and getting used to my body being back in the water. After a few dives, I then decided to head out into some deeper water and target some pollock for dinner later that evening. On this dive, I head down to roughly 14 meters and sit on a ledge. Initially, I saw a legal sized pollock but spooked it as I came down, and then a few seconds later, a shoal of pollock came up from behind me, and this is when I land my first fish of the season. Now, as you can see, as I come up from shooting this fish, we were met by a diving boat. 9 times out of 10, when you have divers in the water, the bubbles and the noise from the tanks normally scares the fish off. So we decided to have one last dive, and as I was coming back up from my final dive, the divers were just descending. That was our key to go, so we then moved inshore. Once we got back in closer to shore, we had a quick look over some rough ground for some lobsters, but we didn't have any luck, so we then called it for the day. Here's some of the pictures that I took on the new camera setup. Pretty happy with the results, as it was my first time using it, and I'm very excited to see what it can produce in the upcoming months. Okay, so we've now prepped the fish. I'm just heading to the shops to get some ingredients for the meal. I'm going to cook a nice and simple fish and chips with some homemade tartar sauce and some homemade chips as well. First up, I started making the tartar sauce. Normally I make it with gherkins and capers with some seasoning, but the co-op didn't sell any capers, so I threw in something with similar saltiness, which I had a few olives and a few pickled chili. I then added some mayonnaise and salt and pepper to taste. Moving on to the batter, I used 1 egg, a cup of flour, some garlic powder and half a pint of tribute, and then gave this a good mix and seasoned again with some salt and pepper. For For the spuds, I cut them into large chunks, covered in olive oil, salt and pepper, and again some garlic powder. Put them in the oven for 20 minutes on about 180 degrees. And then once they were half cooked, I then finished them off in some oil to make them nice and crispy. The deep frying them in oil isn't necessary, but I fancy doing it just to make those chips extra crunchy. Next up, the mushy peas. Not the correct peas for this one. I used garden peas, but they work just fine. Boil them until cooked and then partly blend them with a blender until you get the right sort of consistency. And you can add a bit of water if they get a bit too thick. Finally, moving on to the fish, all I did here was coat the fillet in some flour and then fully cover in batter and dip straight into the hot oil.
Thanks for rolling over.
Huh?
You've got it.